Thank you for tuning into the joint production of UNI TV and Advanced News Reporting classes. I'm Nathan Grieve.
And I'm Ian Shilhonick. Today we will be talking about the Cedar Falls Schools Bond Referendum, which rejected an $118 million package to upgrade the facilities in the school district.
We'll also try to understand the message that voters sent and where the district will go from here.
Right now, from the University of Northern Iowa, this is UNI TV News.
In a record voter turnout on September 9th, Cedar Falls rejected a $118 million bond package proposed by the school district. There were two issues on the ballot. The first one asked voters to approve the building of a new high school, a new elementary school, and upgrade the North Cedar and Orchard Hill elementaries.
The second asked if voters would approve the funding, which was to levy taxes from the citizens to pay for the package.
When the results were canvassed by the Board of Supervisors, the numbers didn't change by much from the preliminary reporting on the night of September 9th. Public Measure A, i.e. the package itself, received 42.15% of the vote, or 4,218 citizens who voted yes. By contrast, 57.85%, or 5,788 voters, turned the measure down.
On Public Measure B, which related to how the construction should be funded, 41.24%, or 4,114 voters approved the levy, while 58.76%, or 5,860 voters, rejected the proposal.
On the night before the election, Dr. Anelia Dimitrova's advanced news reporting class from UNI attended the regularly scheduled school board meeting. School board members Joyce Coyle and Jim Brown were both optimistic regarding the results of the election on the following day. However, the bond was not discussed due to the fact that no objections or comments were given to the school board by 5 p.m. that night.
The school board meeting was held at the recently renovated Hanson Elementary School, where prior to the start of the meeting, Principal Tara Estep led the way as the students and community members were shown the new classrooms, common areas, music room, administrative offices, and more.
For more on this story, check local newspaper articles. UNI student reporters paid attention to the views from both sides and let their voices be heard in the community.
We were able to speak to community members who supported the referendum after the final school board meeting held before the vote took place.
We were also able to speak to Judd Saul on the night of the election, immediately after the results were announced. Saul has been in charge on the Vote No on the 9th campaign and has been a very vocal member in the community in regards to his oppositions to the bond referendum.
For further discussion, let's go to Anelia Dimitrova for a live interview with Dr. Andy Petit.
So here we are, a couple of weeks later. The heat of the election, of the referendum has subsided, and of course, in the spirit of learning and retrospection, we're just wondering what this conversation would look like with Dr. Superintendent Andy Petit. Thank you for coming to the studio, Dr. Petit.
Oh, my honor. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay. I'm also joined by Lexi Moore, Riley Cosgrove, and Thomas Wilkelman. All three are members of the Advanced Reporting Journalism course, and they covered the story in great depth. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Petit, this is a first for you in Cedar Falls,
Yes.
a measure of such magnitude. You worked with the school board on passing the measure. You implemented all kinds of communication strategies, more traditional media strategies, as well as more online and non-traditional and social media campaigns. But it was a tall order to fill.
Yep.
60% of the threshold is a very high threshold. The law requires of the referendum to have a 60% support in the community. And we know this is very hard to reach on the first try historically. How do you read the numbers?
Well, I think it's a time to reflect. It's a time to refocus. We appreciate the large turnout of voters that came out that evening and certainly voiced their opinion on the direction of the school district, which we greatly appreciate as a school district. You know, we really have focused over the course of the last several weeks now to try to gain a better understanding. The next steps are going to be that focus on how do we now to respond to the community concerns and some of the reasons why they voted no in that data collection component. And again, this has been a great process. Like you said, it's the first time that I've gone through this as a superintendent, certainly in Cedar Falls, but as a superintendent. We learned a great deal and a great opportunity really to work with community over the course of this last 18 months, 16 months, to really dig into what they hope and they want and their wishes are as we move forward with our school district.
Was it disheartening, disappointing, disheartening?
You know, I'm not sure disheartening. It's one of those opportunities that you kind of get more reflective and trying to look back on things we could have done differently to make sure that we maybe were more communicative and had the opportunity to really showcase the needs and the expectations that we have for education in Cedar Falls.
Okay, Lexi.
Well, let's turn to some background and context info to see how the issue evolved. The need for the referendum did not happen overnight. It was the culmination of at least 5 years of reviews, analysis, recommendations, expert panels, and multiple public forums, all driven by the school board, with the goal of explaining the need for the new construction and making the case that the growth of the community and the emphasis Cedar Falls puts on a demand for a 21st century learning environment. On the eve of the election, the Advanced Reporting Class Press Corps attended the regularly scheduled meeting of the school board. We asked school board members about the road they had traveled. Joyce Coyle and Jim Brown explained the process and the most frequently asked questions.
Are you optimistic that it will pass tomorrow?
I am. I think our supporters will get out and support education and support what we've done and how we've used our money in the past. If they really understand the reason why we are going to build these buildings, remodel these buildings, and just the background behind it. This just didn't take place in the last couple months. This has been a 5-year plan. We've had community members, parents, business leaders all weigh in on some of the decisions that were made to come up with this plan. There were, I think, 10 community forums which we presented information to everyone. Oh gosh, we've been on Facebook, we've Twittered, we've tweeted, we've been in the Cedar Falls Times, we've been in the Courier, we've been on KWWL. So we've really tried to share as much information with the public so that they feel informed tomorrow when they go to the polls. And I think we've done that.
Leading up to the referendum, the process was really well led, I think, mainly by President Joyce here and the rest of the board and the facilities committee. They did a real good job in terms of involving the public and such, getting the input. I guess the biggest challenge for me personally is some of the misinformation that's out there, whether it's intentional or whether folks just have a different idea of what's to come if it passes. You just really want to get the right information in their hands. So that's a little frustrating. You can't do much when you're talking about a community this size to make sure everybody has the information they need. Such.
What has been the most frequently asked question that you had to dispel misinformation?
Maybe that it's 20% over 15 years. Mm-hmm. I would guess, I think I see that question most often. I think we see a question that this will never go away, which is not the truth. Cedar Falls has a history of paying off its bond, and unless we have something that's catastrophic, we don't expect to ask for something else again.
Dr. Petit, this brings me to one of the critical questions of the referendum, the money. There were multiple numbers and calculations floating around, and when there's an uncertainty about numbers, the knot in the stomach about future financial obligations gets tighter. The opposition pegged the number at a 20% hike in taxes over 15 years. Doug Shaw, a school board member, broke down the numbers to monthly increases ranging from $18 for a $1,000 home to $55 per month for a $3,100 home.
$300,000.
Yeah, on the website, on the school website, you posted similar numbers, but in terms of annual costs. The voters, it appears, responded to these multiple renditions of the price tag by saying it's easier to say no than to figure out whose numbers are accurate.
Yep, and I think that's an important aspect that we know we need to do a better job of communicating the tax implications. Anytime you're talking about tax rates, money coming out of people's pockets, you always want to make sure that people clearly understand and those numbers are clearly articulated as we go forward. And that's something we know we need to do a better job of as a district. We know that that's one of those areas of focus and an area of concern that people had. And when you do have questions about that, then you go back and typically will say, well, no, right now I have some uncertainties. I don't have all the information. I feel comfortable to vote yes on this. And anytime you deal with tax code in the state of Iowa, tax rates in the state of Iowa, the rollback percentages and what that looks like, that can be confusing. So we've got to do a better job, I think, and a more focused job on making sure people clearly understand that impact and break that down into those figures so everybody understands what that looks like.
On the eve of the election, we talked to Drew Stensland, the Cedar Falls High School president, about the need for a new high school. He told us the high school was inadequate, but was cautious about a hands-down win on September 9th.
60% of the high school is not air conditioned. You have rooms that, because it's a brick building, won't cool. And then it hasn't happened yet this year, but it did happen last year. The English rooms, the way they're built, they have air conditioning, but they have windows that are unable to open. So when the air conditioning does break down, the hot air in the room just sits there. It doesn't move, it doesn't do anything. Now, we've done a good job with the money we have put into it so far, but I think overall it's time to move on to a new one. And students, I mean, first time this year, the math hallway, because it was so humid, the floors on the math hallway were colder than the air, so it was condensation got on the floor. People were sliding around the whole school.
Really?
I got video if you want.
Where you get that they proposed to pay for the new high school and the renovations.
So, like...
Yeah, I mean, like, so the whole, how the bond is going to work out for the taxpayers.
Yeah, the way it's set up, and it's a good plan, I think, as far as especially how it affects taxpayers, because you have the first 2 years, the years might be a little off. I'm not 100% with my numbers, but the years, I believe, is in the first 2 years it'll slowly increase the amount, and that'll be to offset the planning, the architecture, that kind of stuff. And then it'll reach its full amount. So if you live in a $100,000 house, I believe it's $220 or something close to that. And it'll reach that full amount. And in the 6th year, if the projections are correct, the bond will begin to go down.
As the votes were being cast on September 9th, Senator Jeff Danielson gave his history to the referendum. He later noted that he was never contacted or included in any discussions regarding the public measures on the referendum.
Part of the vote is influenced by what happened with Price Lab School, which was closed and affected 2 other educational programs here at UNI. So, as a senator, I have to work with and deal with both institutions, the University of Northern Iowa, because we vote on their budget, but also try to have a good working relationship with Cedar Falls schools, because most of the state budget is actually passed through to the local schools. So in a lot of ways, what we do matters for both institutions. One aspect of this bond referendum that I think will kind of cut both ways, those that really liked Price Lab and cared about it and tend to be pro-education will probably vote for the bond referendum. Those that see the Cedar Falls proposal as Price Lab 2, right? One of the selling points for Cedar Falls is the relationship with UNI's education training program. Well, guess what? We had that 3 years ago. It's called Price Lab. And Cedar Falls was generally not supportive of that. So to turn around 3 years later and create a selling point for the Cedar Falls schools to be a part of the teacher training program, for a lot of people here locally, that's Price Lab 2. So you'll see some of those voters probably reject the idea. During the price lab situation, we had a price tag of about $43 to $45 million total. Almost none of that was property taxes. Fast forward 3 years later, Cedar Falls proposes a $90 million high school, and UNI's #1 project is the education building, which ties into all price lab programs. So as a senator, my price tag for pretty much the same number of students, about 250 new students that Cedar Falls got, that they wouldn't be able to propose a new high school if they didn't, that price went from $45 million to roughly 90 plus 40. So for me, that's all taxpayers' money. And so it's a challenge for me as a part of having to deal with both institutions, that it's been a hard proposal to kind of wrap my head around and be supportive of it.
We also talked to board member Doug Shaw, who questioned the accuracy of the arguments of the opposition and said objections should be clearly articulated so that they can be addressed.
If it passes, that people will accept that that is what happened, you know, and I don't really understand what I really hope will happen, which maybe it will, is if it passes that the people who had objections will make sure to let us know exactly what they're concerned about so we can work it out. I know I've already made a pledge to one constituent who was worried about the fact that the high school didn't have enough detailed plans for green energy and green transportation to and from it. And I said, I made the pledge to him that if it passes, I want to meet with him the next day to find out what his concerns are.
A lot of people with fixed income whose property taxes are going to increase are scared that they're not going to be able to pay for their homes. What would you say to
I think that's fear-mongering. The property tax increase will not be all that much. The 20% figure is false. I actually got a breakdown of that 20% figure, and then I posted on Facebook why that 20% figure is false. So it's not really going to be as much as people are saying it is.
The proposed bonds that will be issued or will be put up to election here in the coming year, specifically for University Avenue and for Green Hills Road and the new public safety building, wouldn't that also put stress on those that are on fixed incomes or live from paycheck to paycheck?
I have to say that the other bonds coming up are not really my focus right now.
As the results rolled in on September 9th, the opposition of the campaign for Vote No gathered at the PIPAC Center to await the decision. A couple of reporters, including myself, were there to capture the candid reaction as the election results came in. For the record, we also asked the Yes campaign for access on that night so we could have some reporters on site as well, but we were told the campaign for the Yes side would watch the results privately and then issue a statement.
We are celebrating the win of the Vote No campaign. The people of Cedar Falls have spoken up. It is too much, way too much tax, and I think we need to go back to the drawing board. This community would like fiscal responsibility, not fiscal irresponsibility.
Is there a scenario under which you would endorse a new school or a new development?
We want to see the proposal. We want to see honest numbers. We don't want to say, let's pass it to see what's in it. We like to know what we're paying for. We want to know what the real vision is. We want to see budgets. We want to see the real numbers. But we also want to see something that's responsible. And the first thing I would say is, let's quit lumping in the elementaries with the new high school, and let's fix those elementary schools, and let's build new elementary schools. Because we can afford that with our 1 cent option tax.
Where do we go from here? As a community?
As a community, we need to come back, we need to get together, and we need to get rid of this animosity. Okay? We all live here together. We need to act like we live here together and bring it back to some civility.
Thank you, Dr. Dimitrova, Dr. Petty, and also thank you to our reporters. Your discussions provided a wealth of in-depth information about the Cedar Falls school referendum. We'll be right back after a short break to continue our conversation.
College is an avenue for learning that can lead to successful job opportunities in the future. However, the education you need cannot be gained simply by going to class. Joining Cedar River Productions is the best way for you to get hands-on experience and one-on-one help with technology that will be crucial for your future. This is your chance to get ahead of other students by gaining knowledge about new technologies. You'll be given all the opportunities to turn your ideas into reality and fine-tune your skills and abilities along the way. Make the most of your college experience. Become a member of Cedar River Productions.
I am a future Panther.
I am ready to transfer.
I am building my skills.
I am social networking.
I am investing in my future.
I am challenging my students.
I am running my own business.
I am UNI.
I am UNI. You can be too. Visit IamUNI.net.
Experience, the community, the chemistry, the expertise, the right fit, and all the opportunity in the world to create your masterpiece.
Enjoy the university experience in perfect proportion. And because we teach how to learn, the students of UNI are well prepared to create a lifetime of masterpieces. Create your masterpiece. Experience the University of Northern Iowa.
It's just right. It's the perfect size for me. When I took the tour, I just knew this was the place for me.
I don't know. It just felt right.
My professors know me.
There's so many academic choices.
I could major in anything here.
I got to do research with my professor my sophomore year.
I haven't graduated yet, and I already have a job offer. I just got accepted into grad school.
I feel confident.
I'm ready.
Discover the place, the thinking, the numbers, the canvas, and all the opportunity in the world to create your masterpiece. Learn how to learn at the University of Northern Iowa, and you'll learn you can create a lifetime of masterpieces. Create your masterpiece. Discover the University of Northern Iowa.
Welcome back. I'm Thomas Winkleman. Senator Danielson talked about a timeout for the board and the community. He said that this may be beneficial to hash out what we should do next.
I think there does need to be a timeout called by the Cedar Falls schools and maybe look at the overall ask and pare it back a bit. One final point I'll make. The city of Cedar Falls has one of the most successful industrial parks in the state. 40% of the tax abatement that they grant to an incoming business ordinarily would have went to the local schools. The local schools don't get to be a part of any of that decision. So one of the points I made is, why didn't the city of Cedar Falls go to the school district and say, hey, we can free up some of those TIF revenues in our industrial park. You could probably reduce your ask for your overall bond referendum, and there's a flow of revenue that we would ordinarily wall off from you that we could help with. You never saw any of that collaborative discussion. So I think there needs to be a little more education about the way in which you could finance a new school and include all of the political actors, if you will, in this area who actually do have some skin in the game and could help with it.
Dr. Petit, you heard Senator Danielson talk about collaborative efforts. Does he have a point?
You know, we've gone through this with a very collaborative focus, going through all the public forums, trying to engage multiple different constituent groups, and I think our focus on the future is continued collaboration to make sure that we are working together. We understand, and I think we have the philosophical framework that we are a community school, and our schools have to be focused on what is best for students, but have community in mind as we can continue to provide the educational frameworks that we do.
But I think one of his points was that, has there been enough collaboration with the city of Cedar Falls? Has there been enough collaboration with other interested parties who, as he put it, have skin in the game?
Yep, I think we always want to improve those collaborative partnerships. We have a tremendous collaborative partnership with the city of Cedar Falls. We do a lot together. We partner, we communicate, we have a lot of joint ventures that we do together for the benefit of the community. Sometimes those aren't always widely known, but we have a great partnership. I think we have great partnerships with multiple other entities as well. UNI, Business and Industries, Hawkeye Community College, but you always want to foster and grow those just to become as efficient as possible and providing the best resources or using your resources wisely for student learning.
One of the questions we had as reporters, as journalists, we were wondering why the projects were bundled together. For example, if you're an individual person, if you look at your budget, you always prioritize what you can afford and what you cannot afford. And so usually a long laundry list of priorities, it doesn't work well in a personal budget, and not to draw a comparison between a personal and a public budget, but a lot of people are feeling the pinch where it hurts the most, at the pocket.
Yep, that's exactly right. And
Why were they bundled together?
That's always the challenge. You know, when we go back and we've kind of looked at this holistically, and again, this has been kind of a 5-year process. I've been in this position for about 16 months walking through this. The history around this is Cedar Falls has not had a bond election since 1976, and since 1976, multiple school districts across the state have had bond elections. They've focused on some of their needs, and they've addressed some of their growing capacity and challenges. In the city of Cedar Falls, the Cedar Falls Community School District, we've not had that. So for 40 years, we have really stayed in our limits using our 1-cent sales tax for those school districts. Now we're at the point where, because some of our facilities don't meet the educational needs and the goals of the district, and the fact that we have capacity challenges due to enrollment growth, we need to be able to have these done, and time is a factor, so we need to have them done at the same time, similar time.
What voters are wondering about is, where do we go from here? We have 60 seconds to make a point in the case. Where do we go from here?
Exactly. Now is the time to reflect, to pause, to gather data, to look at root causes. You know, we've heard multiple reasons of why people might have voted no, and we need to go out. We need to work with our community. We need to work with our staff. We need to find out what are some of those concerns. How do we make sure that we refocus and revisit this the right way?
Are you going to repackage it? Are you going to pare it down, as some of the sources we talked to suggested?
No, I'd say after 2 weeks of looking at this, I don't have the answer to that. So we're going to continue to rely on our community as we did going through this process originally, and we know the needs. We've spent 5 years looking at this, and now it's a matter of moving forward to do what's best for students educationally.
So are we back to the drawing board, or are we forward in another direction?
You know, I would say it's a combination of both. Will we go back to the drawing board completely? My answer to that would be no, because then we would cause a huge, I think we'd undermine the work that's been undertaken. I think we would say to the people that have spent 5 years working on this, the work that you've given to the district, the time you've given to the district has not been warranted or recognized or respected, and I think that's the wrong message to send too. We know the needs. Now it's a matter of continuing to work with our community to focus on how do we accomplish and overcome the challenges that we have as a district.
So you would be putting the same package on the referendum in June or July this summer, right?
Well, again, that hasn't been decided.
It has not been decided.
So we'll continue to move forward. I can give you some of my opinions, but that has not been decided. And again, that'll be a community dialogue.
Okay, Dr. Petty, thank you so much for
Thank
talking
you.
to us. Back to Ian and Nathan.
College is an avenue for learning that can lead to successful job opportunities in the future. However, the education you need cannot be gained simply by going to class. Joining Cedar River Productions is the best way for you to get hands-on experience and one-on-one help with technology that will be crucial for your future. This is your chance to get ahead of other students by gaining knowledge about new technology. You'll be given all the opportunities to turn your ideas into reality and fine-tune your skills and abilities along the way. Make the most of your college experience. Become a member of Cedar River Productions.
I am a future Panther.
I am ready to transfer.
I am building my skills.
I am social networking.
I am investing in my future.
I am challenging my students.
I am running my own business.
I am UNI.
I am UNI. You can be too. Visit IamUNI.net.
Experience, the community, the chemistry, the expertise, the right fit, and all the opportunity in the world to create your masterpiece.
Enjoy the university experience in perfect proportion. And because we teach how to learn, the students of UNI are well prepared to create a lifetime of masterpieces. Create your masterpiece. Experience the University of Northern Iowa.
Sounds as though the school board and the community really have their work cut out for them.
The work has already started, and it's only a matter of time before we find out whether voters will change their minds next time.
And that's going to do it for this week's edition of UNI TV. As always, thank you for watching.
UNI TV and news reporting is produced by UNI students for UNI students and the Cedar Falls community. See you next week.